Hey, this is Tom Jacobs from tdjacobs.com. I'm an evolutionary astrologer, also a channel and an energy worker and a medium, all kinds of different healing kinds of things. If you've subscribed to the channel, then you've known that for the last couple of weeks, most of what I've been uploading are these channel meditations, these energy work channel meditations, because I want you to have the opportunity to connect with a different frequency than your mind usually runs or that we typically live with. And it's an Ascended Masterite channel known as Hermes, Thoth, Jehudi, Saint Germain, Merlin, and also Archangel Metatron, combined together on these 22 20-minute meditations. You can download them for free from tdjacobs.com, and I will link in the description of the video below to that. And I also have a lot of other channeled audio you might be into. But anyway, I'm putting up the videos one by one. For some, maybe that's more convenient or desirable. It was suggested by somebody who's been listening to the things at home to really be able to reach more people. So anyway, that's what I've been uploading and trying to rest my voice a little while working a ton and trying to figure out new rhythms for that. So anyway, today I want to, this is partially a Dear Diary thing, but partially an inversion game growth invitation for you. But I want to talk a little bit about conspiracy theories. And I've been thinking about this for a long time. Honestly, since the X-Files started airing in the 90s, I've been thinking about this because, anyway, for lots of reasons. But then in the last few years, it just in the course of a job I used to have, I ended up doing for the work research on different kind of biotech companies and treatments. It was part of my job to do some like legwork on the internet and literature searches and just all kinds of things. And anyway, one of the things that came out of that was I became kind of interested in a very vague amateurish way in immunology. So a few years ago, I was doing research on companies that were working on different things. And anyway, came across this company. And in the context of reading about that, including online message boards, which can be, fertile breeding grounds for conspiracy theories. Anyway, it's kind of been in and out of my space for several years. And now we have this pandemic. And this company happens to be one of the ones working on a vaccine. So I've been kind of thinking about this. And then there's that video, Plandemic, that, two different people, my partner and then a long-term client of mine, sent me a link to it saying, people are taking this down, but maybe it's worth a look. And it's been banned by social media for several reasons. So I watched the whole thing, which I typically avoid conspiracy theory stuff for several reasons. And sometimes a part of her gets activated and is like, oh yeah, maybe they're doing this. Other parts of her don't necessarily always believe that, but some part of her is wondering, right? So I've been thinking about it for a long time. And then today, I heard part of a podcast, and I'll put the link to that too, from On the Media, where this author they're interviewing said something that made something click finally after years and years of thinking and wondering. And of course, during the pandemic, I've been trying to, come up with some lists of, how can I teach something positive or proactive? How can I understand, can I try to understand something and then turn around into a teaching that might be helpful for others? And that's what the previous COVID-19 videos are all about. So I'll just say right off the bat, one of the reasons why the conspiracy thing is difficult for me to witness when other people are doing that, one of the reasons is I have a karmic healing for myself. This is the Dear Diary part. Where part of me has a paranoia that the universe, or more specifically God, is out to get me and is always working against me. I'm embarrassed to admit this, but this is what part of me believes because it's not the dominant part of me, but it's like always with me, sitting on my shoulder saying, that's why that happened. It's pretty prevalent. So I have this mistrust of the universe, of God, of society, of other people. I'm desperately trying to heal this because it is so painful and horrible to live that way. It's the worst. So when I hear other people edging toward paranoia or convinced of that kind of stuff, it's like not the way I would articulate it, but it strikes the nerve. It strikes the raw nerve. So I try to stay away from conspiracy theories for that reason, honestly. And like I said, with my partner, with some friends, sometimes people bring it up. People email me stuff. As a spiritual teacher, as a practitioner, people sometimes do, email me stuff that's going, so to speak, going around. And I try to avoid it. But I did watch that whole clip, the 26 or 28-minute clip of a pandemic, talking to the scientist, Dr. Judy, I guess Mikovits. I did watch it, and I was really proud of myself. I was able to get through the whole thing. But there were just a couple things in there that didn't feel true to me, but I wanted to give it a chance. I'm trying to be open-minded because I want to understand where some of this fear comes from that leads us to engage in and believe conspiracies. So what was said, well, one thing that stood out to me was I used to work for scientists in a scientific atmosphere. I worked in an office for scientists. And listening to them talk about things, they're always backing up what they say with citations of peer-reviewed articles or data. And as I just watched that 26-minute thing, the documentarian is giving her the option to tell her story, right? Really creating a space for her to tell her story. And he really does embrace, her version of events, right? But there are facts that are left out, and there's just that it didn't quite feel true to me. It felt like she's been through a lot of difficult things, and I felt like she was a bit victimized. I don't know, something. So anyway, and if you read about her biography, you'll understand why. Like, she came up with this, like her biggest success turned out to have to be retracted because there was contamination in some samples. So she perceived she came across something and really discovered a fundamental important truth, and then it was found out later that the samples they used were contaminated and they had to retract it. And I think it was kind of a disgrace. I think it was kind of like, I was looking for her birth date, and it says the only thing Wikipedia has is circa 1957 or 58, something like that. So anyway, I just wanted to see, what was going on, or if we could look at that and see that journey, because that's a really big deal, that kind of professional, really believing that you arrived at something and then finding out it's a mistake and it has to get kind of erased because it's not true. Anyway, so I want to give people the benefit of the doubt, and so anyway, I listened, but there were things that weren't backed up, and it just wasn't right for me. It just doesn't sound true. So anyway, one of the things in this podcast today from On the Media, I'll link to the page on the podcast site, the nycstudios.org. On the Media is a podcast that's produced by WNYC Studios. And the segment called What to Say When, or something like that, about what to say when somebody sends you a conspiracy theory link or something. That's a segment I'm talking about, but I think the whole episode is actually worth listening to, as I do every week, because I'm a big fan of that podcast. Because instead of like watching the nightly news or reading all the headlines, they analyze it from a bird's eye view, and on the media, they're like media analysis, media critics. So they kind of help you understand what the impulse is behind different styles or trends in reporting. And I just appreciate that quite a lot. Anyway, enough about them. But anyway, that's why I kind of rely on them for stuff like this. And it happened to come through today. And this author said, that sense of victimization when somebody who says, I have the truth, or I'm a whistleblower, I have the truth, but the establishment is silencing me. That if people have felt victimized, they might identify with that sense that person has, and it might be easy to mistrust authorities, and that's where part of this comes from. I also do think that it's hard to trust institutions and authorities, especially, here we are in the year 2020. We've had a lot of stuff, over the last few decades where, secrets are revealed that make us mistrust. It doesn't start with, maybe it starts with Watergate in a certain way, but later revelations about what was going on in the talks about the Vietnam War in the previous decade, that kind of like adds to it, and then blah, 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 and then scandal, this gate, that gate, whatever, Iran-Contra, all these different things. When I was talking to my girlfriend last 10 days ago or 2 weeks ago about all this stuff, she said, but how do you know you're not getting tricked? And I said, I'm sure I am sometimes. But it hurts to live in that space of, I'm sure that I can't trust anyone, or anyone who has authority, or anyone who is expert or educated, anyone who works in the government. It's just such a painful place to be. So anyway, so she talked about this victimhood thing, and this is what I want to turn this into an inverse game for you. And the thing about trust, the thing about, essentially, are you safe on this planet? Are you safe in your body? Are you safe in the world? Are you safe in your community? Sometimes there are very real 3D factors where we don't feel we are. But I want you to consider this idea of, like, if feeling victimized makes me prone to not trust, how can I understand what has victimized me in a new light? That's the inverse game we're going to play today. So, for example, well, just think of something that has hurt you. Something that parts of you have been really shaped by in important ways, and you're clear, or parts of you are clear, either way, that this thing has been done to you. This thing happened to you. It was done to you. When we're in that space, and we don't understand how we may have co-created something, even if terrible. When we don't understand that, it's easy to go into that mental place where it assigns reasons and can get a little paranoid sometimes, right? Paranoid, right? Can go crazy sometimes. We're trying to find out why things happen. Well, the truth about why painful things happen to you, this is what we want to add as a second footnote or second caption under the image of whatever you picked for the thing that hurt you so much that happened to you. Level 1 analysis says, in my world, let's list and name the facts of what has happened, how it affected you, and how it may still be affecting you years or decades or lifetimes later. Honor the facts. So don't deny what you experienced. Don't assume you're wrong. Honor the facts. And then level 2, and why would a soul co-create this experience? Why would my soul co-create this experience? So whatever it is that happened, on one level, it did happen to you. Maybe it's very specific that somebody did something to you, maybe. Or maybe you made a choice that you feel like you did something to yourself. Okay. So from the bird's eye view, shifting gears to level 2 analysis, everything that happens to you, whether it's from your own choice or free will, or somebody else acts upon you, or something happens around you and it affects you in important ways, every single thing that happens to you that leaves a mark or impacts you seriously is fodder for your soul's journey as a human to learn how to become strong through being loving. In other words, everything that really makes a difference in your life, happy or unhappy, healthy or unhealthy, right? Encouragement or damage, pain, abuse, all these things, right? All those things fit with your soul's journey because you are here to learn as a human how to process painful feelings so you can get to compassion and love. Will I choose to bring love to this part of myself or my experience, to this shadow part of me, to this really unhappy, sad part of me? Will I choose that? That's what your soul is watching outside time. Your soul is already divine love. You can't harm it. A lot of evolutionary astrologers will tell you that the soul is damaged, and it's not. From my channeling, I'm very clear it's not. The soul isn't wounded. You can't heal the soul because you can't wound the soul. You're trying to clear out and bring into balance your etheric bodies, your mental body, your emotional body, your unconscious realm, your unconscious cache of memories from many lifetimes affect you, and you're trying to resolve feelings and energies and imprints and bruises and scars and marks and judgments and beliefs about emotions and why things happen to you. So listen to the parts of you who say, this happened to me and I'm upset. Listen, honor that, write it down. Give voice to those parts and understand you're not indulging in negativity. You're creating a space for part of you to feel heard. That's the first step toward love, is witnessing, acknowledging. It's the first step. then you listen to them and you don't believe them. That's the second step, or maybe wrapped up concomitant with number one. Listening, as if your friend is saying, I am a victim and this exploding stuff happened to me, and blah, 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 blah. And you're like, I'm listening, but I know that's not who they really are, but they need to express this. So you listen, articulate, give voice to, and then number two, you don't believe it is truth, but you honor the experience that you've had. I was even talking with a client yesterday, a first-time client who's been in my sphere for a while, so she's probably watching this. And one of the messages from her guides was, with Pluto in the 7th house, if you say, this is what I've been through and it hurts, and everyone else says, no, you didn't, your job is to validate it yourself and own the truth of what you've experienced. In other words, don't listen to others too much. That's a Pluto in the 7th house kind of blind spot sometimes. So, for you to own and acknowledge what's happened to you and really own it is part of the empowerment process here. So you listen to the part of you, you give it voice, you articulate it, you honor the facts of what happened and the facts of how it affected you and may still affect you today, even decades or lifetimes later. Number two, you insist it's not capital T truth, but it must be honored and heard. This is the same kind of approach that I use. This came up recently with Joe Biden here in the U.S., a Democratic presidential candidate, about the former staffer from the 90s who has made accusations against him of, sexual advancement, sexual assault kind of thing. And his position is, we have to listen, but we also have to investigate and look for facts. And it's that idea of like, in the investigation process, we have to hear from the people. We have to hear. We have to take seriously what they're saying as part of an investigation process. We shouldn't assume that what everybody says is always the truth or accurate. I don't have any opinions. I'm not saying anything about her or him or anything. But just when I heard him interviewed, they just brought that up about this, the first interview he did about it in response, where he didn't downplay her or attack her or discount. He said it didn't happen. We have to investigate all the facts, that kind of stuff. So anyway, don't believe what parts of you say. Keep an open mind that some of what they say is the belief that's shaped from feeling powerless because they were so deeply hurt or felt so seriously victimized. The parts of you. So me with my paranoia, as a generic example, just really briefly, part of me in some lifetimes has experienced the loss of everything, or most things, and it seems like everything. So that part of me doesn't know how else to rationalize or understand what happened other than to say, the universe is cruel, God is a jerk, or some variation on that. Working against me, whatever. And like the loss was so total that part of me doesn't have any other explanation. Clear that I don't deserve that, but not sure how to understand. So we get in that space where the brain kind of stops and is like searching for a reason. So what I encourage you to do is listen to that, but don't believe it. Don't believe it as actual truth, but understand with compassion, it is part of what you're experiencing. And you have been shaped by real world experiences in this life and many lifetimes. So these very strong emotional responses to defend victimization are indications that parts of you don't feel safe and don't feel loved and do feel victimized. But you don't have to believe that victimization is your destiny or who you are. So again, everything that really impacts a person is a co-creation to help that person learn how to become strong through love, compassion, acceptance, generosity of spirit, giving the benefit of the doubt, healing, forgiveness, generosity, whatever, compassion, blah, blah, blah. Love, 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 compassion. So if you can add level 2 to, and why would this happen to me? Why would my soul co-create this? How could this possibly serve the learning journey of any soul, then you can have some perspective and witness and listen to this part of you, and things can start to unwind because you can grasp a higher level bird's eye view, zoom it out. Why would this happen? This is essentially what I do with my counseling work and what the spirit guides do coming through readings. This is what they do. Somebody says this is happening, or this happened 15 times. And after 15 times, it's making me crazy. How can I stop it? What is going on? And the guides and the Ascended Master and I, we all kind of collaborate to give the bird's eye view. Every single thing can be healed because every single thing can have love and understanding and acceptance brought to it, not by me and your guides. The information comes through so you can explore becoming empowered by accepting your role in co-creating things. Not that you're trying to create suffering, but pain and suffering and anger and sorrow and grief and loss and even abuse are part of life. They're part of what souls go through and take each other through, drag each other through different muds and different swampy terrains to learn how to become powerful through loving. Your nature of your soul is loving, but it can't grow because it's already totally loving. So it splits itself off into these little portions, and here you and I are struggling through, how can I trust again after I've been hurt? How can I give you the benefit of the doubt if you hurt me before? How can I trust God again? How can I feel safe in my body? Because when I go in my body, I find fear and anxiety. How can I feel safe in the world and I look around and all I see is others' fear, or I see people hurting each other? How can I be part of this community, this human community, if people are careless and sloppy and cruel to each other? How can I heal that? And healing isn't a return to innocence, but healing is a coming back into more balance, wholeness. And how can I do that? And it's by the way I understand how to do this is not just a blanket forgive everybody. And that's an important part of it. But if you do that, you'll find parts of you sometimes. Some people, maybe it's easy to do that, but for some people, they have a sense of, I can't let it go because I don't know if I'm safe. Why should I trust I'm safe? And that's why we bring in the bird's eye view, second layer of analysis, and why would a soul co-create this? So all of this to say, I didn't want this to be such a long video, but all of this to say, the inversion game here is the invitation for you to realize what makes you feel victimized, and then to endeavor to find out what level 2 is. Well, number one, to listen, level 1 analysis, what actually happened, let me listen to it while honoring it, not shaming anything I feel or have experienced, not judging or thinking I'm doing it wrong because I feel this, or thinking that I'm wrong because I went through that experience, but like listening and witnessing, right? And then level 2, and endeavoring why from the bird's eye view would this be happening. I'm very fortunate, I'm very grateful that because I talk like this in videos, I attract people, clients and students who say stuff like, they don't say to me, why would this person keep doing this to me? They say, okay, I need to know why this pattern is occurring and what the vibration is and where the source is and what the other life garbage is that I'm replaying. I need to, I'm lucky I attract a pretty sophisticated, wise group of spiritual seekers really interested in their own healing and advancement, because I promise you that we all want to be of service to each other when we get beyond our own wounding and our own pain. And I just feel very fortunate. So I'm just giving a blanket, anybody who sees this on YouTube, a blanket thank you for participating in, frankly, my own healing experiment. Can I find optimism again? Okay, great. Can I help you find optimism again? That's the whole experiment, that I've been doing this work for, 16 years, 17 years, to see if I can find a way past my own paranoia, depressiveness, anger, all that stuff. And you guys are playing with me, and I really I appreciate that, and I'm feel very fortunate to to have, is this the right phrase? To have your ear, to be able to reach you. So anyway, you can check out what I'm up to at tdjacobs.com and also healingsuicide.com. And most of my work is represented by tdjacobs.com, but healingsuicide.com tells the story of soul, its multi-life journey, how your choices affect soul, how soul sees your human life, your human lives, many of them, and also how a suicide affects soul. And it's a good teaching for people who are feeling overwhelmed with certain emotional things. And remember, when we're filled, I didn't say it in this video, but I said it elsewhere, when a part of us that's really in pain is activated, it fills our whole view screen, and we think that's who we are. And some parts of us don't know how to deal with difficult emotions. Some of us feel sometimes pinned into a corner and trapped. And so it's important that healingsuicide.com is, the reason I created it is because it gives a perspective that can help you understand how to understand and approach certain difficult emotions that might leave us feeling that we don't know, like we can't handle it and there's no hope. Everything can be healed, but we have to evolve the tools and approaches that we use, including listening without judgment, witnessing with compassion, and really having compassion for the fact that we've been shaped by real-world experience of many lifetimes, not just this one. Okay, so tdjacobs.com and healingsuicide.com. Take care. Thanks for playing.